All right, greetings everyone. Welcome to a post-recorded version of my talk that I gave at the 7th Gen Development Conference at the beginning of June 2025. And yeah, it's a similar version that I presented, but it doesn't contain some specific like Gen internals. So let's begin. So first of all, something about myself. I'm currently a lead software engineer in the technology organization, also called CTO organization, in the CTO platforms team. And I've been actually with the company for over 14 years now. And I started at AVG in 2011. Then AVG was acquired by Avast, so I moved to Avast. And then, Avast and NortonLifeLock merged to become Gen, and here we are now. My career, actually, I started as an engineer, which is the usual, track. And then I became an engineering manager for over a year. But then I turned back into like being an individual contributor, although in the technical leadership track, and we'll see what it is later. So I think that this gives me like the experience and like competence to present this talk. At least I hope so. Also, one thing about me is that I enjoy discussions about career ladders, expectations, and so on. And I've been a part of various initiatives to create career ladders, competency matrices, and so on over the years. When I talk to people, or what I saw, what I see in the internet is that management sometimes gets a bad reputation. And for example, funnily enough, when I tried to search, why to become an engineering manager on YouTube, these were the first 3 hits that I received, and all of them are kind of negative. So like, why you shouldn't be? I quit as an engineering manager, like the bad parts of engineering management. And I would like to somehow refute that, because this is kind of hilarious. Also, I think that people are sometimes confused as to what does an engineering manager do. And some people, I think, really believe that they are just sitting at their desks, on the tables or desk and just doing nothing, which like might be some corner cases, but the vast majority of managers really have a lot of work on their plate. Also, what people do not seem to realize often is that moving into management is actually another promotion. It's a complete career restart, and it's a completely different job with a different skill set, and we'll look at it later. So the motivation is get you thinking about your own career and let you provide some hints on deciding, hey, should I try to move into management or not, so that you are prepared when making this decision. Yeah, and finally, this talk is really general. There is nothing specific to Gen whatsoever. So let's start with a career ladder. This is the career ladder that I've been using in my presentations. It's a complete made up, but it's based on career ladders that I've seen at various companies. So you usually start as a junior engineer, then you move to become a mid-level engineer, and then to senior engineer, maybe senior engineer 1, senior engineer 2. And then you have a choice, usually either to stay as a senior engineer, or if you want to grow, like I believe that all companies allow you to move into a so-called people management track, where you might become an engineering manager and take over the leadership and management of a group of people. Then you can continue to being a senior engineering manager who might manage other managers, and so on until, let's say, the VP level or CTO level. But what companies, quickly found out is that, hey, some people want really to grow, but they don't want to move into people management. So to give them space, the following second track was introduced. It's called a technical leadership track, or an individual contribution track, or also staff plus engineering. And this term stems, from the job titles, as you can see, like staff engineer, principal engineer, up until, let's say, distinguished engineer. All these job titles, they differ from company to company, so just take this with a grain of salt, like it's just for illustratory purposes. And if you all want to know more about the technical leadership track, I can recommend watching my talk from the previous Gen Development Conference from January 2025, because in this talk, I'll be only focused on people management. So let's start by describing what engineering managers actually do. And let me preface this by saying that if you talk to several managers, probably each of them will give you a different response because the work differs a lot. So again, just a disclaimer, I will show you my view. So as a gist, this is the description that I like, that, hey, the job of an engineering manager is to take a group of individuals and turn them into a high functioning team, let's say. So as you would expect, they manage the team of people, and the way they work, and in order to scale, they have to really work through those people. So they do no longer do the work by themselves, but they enable the team and the people there to do the work. So they work as enablers instead of doers. Also, they care, or rather should care, for the well-being of the team members, and also to create a great team culture, because the manager is only as good as the team they manage. So they should really focus on ensuring that the team members are happy, productive, and the team is working like a well-oiled machine. They should also focus on the career growth of individuals and focusing, improving the overall team motivation and morale of people. For example, by having, regular one-on-ones, listening to their feedback, acting upon this feedback, and really taking care of the people. Also, they need to plan the work for the team. So, for example, what needs to be done, who will do what. They also need to prioritize in case there is more work than the team is able to manage, let's say, for example, in a sprint. And also, like, ensuring that the team delivers what it is expected to deliver. They also manage performance, although not from the system point of view, like scalability, but from the people point of view. So they might be writing and reviewing performance reviews. They might be, dealing with underperforming employees to ensure that they get back on track, that they improve, and so on. Also, as you would expect, they do some amount of bureaucracy administration, let's say approving vacations, business trips, trainings, and so on. They are also budget holders. They are also responsible for headcounts, and they use that budget, for example, to handle salary increases. They also can hire people and become a hiring manager in this regard. They might to promote people to, for example, to move from juniors to mid-level engineers and so on. And in case, for example, the company is doing layoffs, or when someone is underperforming and there is no way to improve this, they need to let people go. Also, usually engineering managers are, the primary point of contact for the team, so that so that other teams can reach out to the manager to discuss something that is required from the team. And what they also should do is to kind of, protect the team from what is going on in the organization. Let's say protect them from all the politics and talks going on, so that the team can really focus on their work instead of focusing on some rumors, gossip, and so on. And finally, what they really need to do is to delegate a lot, because again, they work as enablers, working through the team, so that cannot, hold the work and do that by themselves. And one comparison that I really like is that this might feel like giving up your Lego pieces. So you no longer play with the Lego by yourself, but you need to hand out the pieces to the people so that they can do the job and play. Yeah. And by the way, as Copilot is telling us here, if you want to be an engineering manager, the prerequisite is to have two pairs of hands. Otherwise, do not even consider applying. Just kidding, of course. And now you might be saying, but hey, Petr, it's well and nice, but aren't you forgetting something very important? And no, I'm not. Yeah, engineering managers, they do attend a lot of meetings, which is, I guess, the source behind this meme. So you apply for a manager role, and then you spend the whole day on the meetings. Yeah, it's sad but true. Also, I want to point out that managers do a lot of reactive work. They need to react on what is currently happening. They need to be interruptible because someone might need from them something, and they are there for the people, to help them. Also, they need to do a lot of context switching. So, for example, as a manager, you might have a one-on-one with a person who is, let's say, game changer, really great. And then after a half an hour, you need to switch and go to another meeting to a person who is maybe underperforming and needs more your guidance and so on. So, a lot of context switching. Their job is to have difficult conversations, actually. So again, for example, if the company is doing layoffs, they are the people who need to have the conversation with the employees about them being laid off. They also act as, spokespeople for the company. So for example, if the company prepares a new policy, it is up to managers to, let the people know, explain the policy, ensure that they follow it, and to basically represent the company towards the people they manage. Also, what is very, very important, as a manager, you really have a lot more responsibility than a senior engineer. You also have a more visibility because you might be attending meeting that those senior engineers are not attending. And you also need to think more strategically and you need to or you might have more influence into like what is happening at the company. And finally, they are expected to step in when something or some role in the team is missing. So for example, if your team doesn't have a project manager, like usually it is up to the engineering manager to step up and like fill in this role for the team. Or if you do not have a dedicated product manager, someone needs to discuss stuff with the customer. So again, an engineering manager is usually the one who fills this role. Uh, when talking to people about their career and about this possible transition, like the usual question is, but I will still write code, right? And I guess like the answer is it depends. But the first question is, will you have time for that? And here, let me show a great picture from Tanya Riley's talk on Bloomberg, which I'll be, quoting a lot this talk. And because, as I said, you will have a lot of meetings and also you will have a lot of other activities that you need to focus on. So you might not have enough time to write code. Also, the question is whether you will be able to focus, like maybe 30 minutes in between meetings might be too short to, get all the complexity of the code base into your head and then just flush it afterwards because you have a streak of meetings. Also, you need to be thinking about, hey, will I maximize my impact this way? Because as a manager, your impact is somewhere else than like writing code. And also, I would say that if you as a manager write a lot of code and you spend a lot of time like in development, you might be actually in like improper role. So maybe then consider, going into the technical leadership track. Yeah, just saying. All right, so how to decide whether to move into management or not? And I will first start with a bad approach. And again, here I'll be quoting the talk from Tanya Riley on Bloomberg because I really like her metric for this and her approach. And so let me tell you about it. So when you read some books or talk to some people on the decision, what it can say that they can ask you, hey, can you give feedback? Are you good at communication? Or do you like people? And if so, then yeah, you should be a manager, like it's decided. But it's similar to the signs at carnivals, like this one that says, hey, you need to be this tall in order to go on a roller coaster. And I'm like I'm tall enough, but this looks really horrible. Like everyone is screaming, people are all vomiting. And so when they say, hey, you need to be this socially competent to become a manager, like for actually the same reason, I'm competent enough, but this doesn't, that's not my idea of a great time. So what to use instead? And again, that's from Tanya. If you code a lot, you will become better at coding, and if you start managing people, you will definitely become a better manager. So it is not really about the skills that you actually have, but it is about the skills that you want to acquire. So ask yourself, hey, what is the thing that I want to get better at? Because if you start doing it, you will definitely get better at it. Also, think about it this way. There is some work that might energize you, and then there is some work that might mentally drain you. So what kind of work energizes you? And is the work of the manager the thing that would energize you? And finally, I think it goes without saying, but focus on the thing that you enjoy and really what will make you happy in life, even though it might sound like a cliche, it's true. So let's go over some reasons why you might decide to go into management. So one of the reasons is that you either enjoy or want to get better at the people side of engineering, not necessarily on like the technical side. And yeah, there are some people who want to focus on this part. Also, in case you would like to get better at growing people and like taking care of the people in your team, let them grow, let the team grow, and making sure that the team works as best as it could. Also, you might want to focus more on people issues instead of technical issues. So one example that I'm giving is that, hey, instead of focusing on the performance problems of an issue, you will focus on performance issues of a person. So, for example, the person is underperforming, and you need to work with them to improve this. Also, being an engineering manager gives you a way to start building bigger and more complex projects than you would be able just as a regular IC, like a senior engineer, because yeah, you have more people to work on the project, so you can build bigger things. Also, you might want to have a role that is more strategic. So for example, you no longer like to do one Jira task after another or fixing a bug after another. And you might want to focus more, let's say, on the product that you are building, on like helping your customers, or you might want to have more responsibility over what is happening in the company. And also you might want to have higher power to influence things. Also, if you want to get better at soft skills, so you not necessarily at your hard skills concerning certain technology, but at soft skills like, I don't know, communication, feedback, disagreement, and so on, that's a great way to do it. Also, you need to either enjoy or not mind like all the other tasks that managers do. So, for example, the administration or having one-on-ones with people and so on. Also, you need to be kind of there. You need to be kind of figure out how to do, get around having a lot of meetings, because you will usually have a lot of meetings, like ideation, alignment, and many, many other meetings. And, some people like don't want to code anymore and want to focus on other things. So if you don't mind coding only sporadically or not at all, yeah, like that's an option. So now let's focus on some of the reasons for not going into management actually. And I would say that if you love what you do, like just keep doing it. So if you really love coding, development, be deep in the code, hey, let's do it. Like we need a lot of senior engineers who are like really, knowledgeable and good at what they do. Also, please do not think that, hey, I'm a good developer, I will definitely be a good manager, because as I said, like it's a completely different job requiring a completely different set of skills. And it's kind of similar that if you are a good footballer, do not expect you to be, a good manager of a football team or a football coach, because again, you need to be better at different things. Also, try not to succumb to outside pressure. For example, if there is no one else in your team to manage the team, like think twice before stepping up and becoming an engineering manager, because it might not be what you are looking for. Also, in case you need a really like clear job description, uh, then maybe engineering management might not be the best thing to do, because their job descriptions are more fuzzy. And also, if you want to have a fast feedback loop, for example, as a senior engineer, you might fix a bug and then immediately get gratification from fixing the bug or delivering a feature. Then in management, it's kind of delayed, the gratification, because you need to wait, for example, longer time for the team member to become more productive, more senior, and so on. Also, I would say that, hey, it might be nice to have a fancy job title or like climb the ladder. I wouldn't say that this is a good reason. Like it's a reason, but I would say it's not a good one. Also, some people really have no interest moving into leadership. They just want to be deep in the code, and like that's totally fine. And in case that you enjoy more technical leadership than like managing a team, then you might consider the other track, the IC track instead of the people management track. And again, some people really want to work on their hard skills, improving at architecture, knowing really deeply how does a system work or how does the technology work, how to debug things, then yeah, you should rather not go into management. Now you might be thinking, all right, like, but what about money? Like, aren't engineering managers like receiving more compensation? And I guess the answer is depends. So, like, it is usually true that if you have a senior engineer and a manager, then the manager usually receives more money. But for example, if you continue on the technical leadership track, you might become a staff engineer, principal engineer, and then you will earn more as an engineering manager. Or what you should also consider is that if the money will really make you happy, because if you will not be satisfied in the work that you do, then maybe no amount of money can counter that. So it really depends. It could be a reason for going into management, but it could also be a reason like against that. Alrighty, let's go over some caveats. So, as I've been mentioning throughout this talk, really engineering management is not a promotion. It's a different job. You will need different skills. You will need to do different things. So please consider this during your decision. Also, do not think that once you become a manager, you will need to you will stay a manager for the rest of your life. This is definitely not the case. And usually there is an option, to switch back to the technical leadership track. And actually, this is something that people do, and it's described in this engineering manager pendulum article that some people, for example, manage a team for a few years and then they switch back to technical leadership for a few years and then they become managers again and they switch back and forward. And if the company provides that and you like that, then yeah, that could be a great option. Also, what I've been saying is that if you compare the two tracks, the technical leadership track and the people management track, I would say that they are the two sides of the same coin. They are both leadership, but from a different viewpoint. So in people management, you really focus on the people and like leading the people. In technical leadership, you are more focusing on the technical aspects. And like when I'm currently a technical lead, and so a lot of the things that I do is what I was doing when I was a manager. So it's not that different than people expect in some regard. And finally, let's say that you have two people who have a director job title and you cannot infer anything from that because they might be doing a really vastly different job. So for example, one person might have 40 people on the reporting to them, maybe through some other managers, and the other director might have just have 5 people in the team because the rest of the team got fired during the last layoff. And usually companies do not demote people, so they are just directors, even though they have no managers reporting to them. Now, you might be thinking, all right, so I might go on this track. What is going to happen to me? And what I say is that usually the higher up you go, you will have a bigger team to manage. You might be starting manage some other managers, or maybe manage more directors, and so on. Also, you will have a broader scope and like greater area of impact. You will have more influence. Also, you will have more responsibility over the things that your team or organization does. And you will also need to think really more strategically, even like several years ahead. And that is very important. Also, this is something that you would expect. Like the higher up you go, you receive more compensation, be in money, stock, RSUs, and so on. Also, the higher up you go, you will have to deal more with people. And I like something that our CTO, Siggy Steffensen, once said, that from certain level, all issues become people issues. Like there are no technical issues anymore. They are just people issues. Also, you will be attending more meetings. I think that's inevitable. And also, what they say, it feels lonely to be at the top. So for example, even though there might be like hundreds of engineering managers at your company, there might be only a few VPs. So yeah. Alrighty, so what are some of the other options that you might consider? You might consider, staying as a senior engineer, like that's I would say, the true individual contributor, where you can be deep in the code most of the time and you really focus on the nitty-gritty details of developing the systems. Or you might move into that technical leadership track and become a staff plus engineer, and there you might have the roles of a tech lead, architect, a right hand, solver, and so on. Or if you enjoy and want to get better at managing like complex projects, ensuring that the trains are arriving at time, ensuring that everyone does what they are supposed to do, hitting deadlines, then you might consider, becoming a project manager. Or if you want to get better at understanding your customers and improving the product, you might consider becoming product manager. So again, like these two roles, they do not have any like direct reports usually, but they are focusing on management, but different management than people management. And finally, if you want to get better and want to like lead or drive various large initiatives at your company, you might become a program manager and start managing programs. Yeah. All right. As for some related reading and writing, if you want to know more about my career, here is my blog post. Also, I've published these two articles that are closely related to this topic, so feel free to check them out. If you prefer watching, then here is a link to my talk about staff engineering. And also here's an older talk about engineering career ladders in general. And right, if you use any kind of search engine or LLM, there are like tons of different material. So in terms of books, let me mention a few. In terms of people management, I can really recommend this one because it starts really from the beginning. What is your day-to-day job, how to do one-on-ones with people. And what I found when reading some other books is that they might straight go into topics like, hey, this is how you should lead your teams through change. But if you are a beginning, if you are at the beginning, you really need to do what you should do day to day instead of like focusing on leading teams through change. And so I can recommend this book. And also as an overview, I can also recommend this one by Camille Fournier. There are these two general books on career that I can also recommend. And finally, if you are interested in staff plus engineering, I definitely suggest to read these two books, where both of them are excellent. Alrighty, so we have reached the end. I will not go through this slide. You can read it if you haven't been listening throughout my talk. And as for the Q&A, there were two questions, and actually they were like, there was one question, but separated into two. Like if I could describe like what was my career and the reason for going into management and then like stepping out of management. And like, yeah, what can I tell you? I was young and naive. Now I'm only naive. I'm just kidding. So the reason for going into management is that have always had, let's say leadership tendencies. I enjoy leadership. And also at that time, I was kind of an informal team lead for the team. So we agreed with my manager that I will, formally manage the team. So I had 7 direct reports. But after that year, what I discovered is that I was getting really mentally drained from the activities. Like I would say, especially from a lot of one-on-ones and a lot of like discussions, which weren't like up my sleeve. Also, I started to do a lot of overtime work because I kind of wanted to prove that I can be both a developer and a manager, which is like complete nonsense. And if you are thinking this, please, like that's kind of impossible unless you do a lot of like overtimes. And like finally, I was handed a person who become a really nightmare to work with, and he was getting like even like to the point that he started to become a liability like for the team and creating like a toxic atmosphere. And so for example, when I asked the person, hey, can we meet, I need to discuss something with you, the response was no. Okay, so what about tomorrow? No. All right, so can we meet on Friday? Yeah, well, that's too far ahead, who knows what might happen. And like this was a usual conversation with that person, so like really like not a person you want to work with. And neither me nor my manager was able to figure out how to work with that person, so we decided to fire him. At which point he started threatening that, hey, if you fire me, I'll sue you. And I guess this was the final nail in my coffin. So I'm not saying that I will not get into management later. I might, because I'm like more knowledgeable. But it was a great experience for me. But I saw that, hey, I would prefer like doing the other side, which is technical leadership, and I enjoy being on the technical leadership track and this kind of leadership. So that's that. All right. Thanks for listening. If you have any comments, suggestions, questions, feel free to leave them as comments. And yeah, until then, bye.